As the head of the household, my commands are non-negotiable. Should you choose not to heed my instructions, divorce will be our only option, regardless of his ongoing affair. Despite his attempts to control me, I questioned why I must adhere to everything he dictates. Fine, let's get a divorce then, I declared. Subsequently, I transferred all loans into his name, hoping he would recognize the extent of my contribution to our life together. My name is Carol, I'm 36 years old, and I work as a system engineer. It has been 6 years since I married my husband, John. We met through our jobs with my company, where I was an engineer, subcontracted work to his company. During a temporary assignment at his company, he approached me with kindness, leading us to gradually get to know each other outside of work. After a period of dating, he proposed and I accepted. Upon marriage, I left my job at the company. Being an engineer was demanding, often leaving me overworked, both physically and mentally, and the pay was insufficient. Concerned about not having enough time to spend with my husband and the potential strain on our relationship, I decided to become a freelancer. This decision allowed me more time for household chores and to spend with my husband. Initially, my income as a freelancer wasn't substantial, but thanks to my engineering experience, I eventually attracted more clients and started earning more. I was astonished at how quickly my income grew and was thankful for my husband's financial support during the times I earned less. I diligently performed household chores and experimented with various recipes to make my husband happy, for which he expressed gratitude, enhancing my happiness. In the early days, we respected each other and shared a happy life. However, a few years in, my husband proposed buying a new house, a suggestion that surprised me given his usual disregard for savings. I suggested saving more money, but he dismissed the idea, believing his income sufficient, unaware that our comfortable lifestyle was sustained by my increased earnings. Despite his belief that we hadn't faced financial difficulties since our marriage, it was my income that had bolstered our household budget, a fact I kept from him to protect his self-esteem. As our lifestyle remained unchanged, I surmised that my income must have significantly increased, a concept he seemed not to grasp fully. I couldn't believe what my husband said. However, he seemed enthusiastic about building a new home, and I had no way of stopping him. What kind of house do you have in mind? I had to find a way to build a low-cost home while accommodating my husband's increasing demands. But fulfilling all these conditions would significantly raise the cost. Isn't it a big deal? It's a once-in-a-lifetime purchase, and my income should be enough, right? I pondered the basis of his confidence. At that moment, I regretted not informing my husband about my income increase. I thought revealing it might calm him. John, it's about household expenses, but actually, I'd also contribute a significant amount from my income. For some reason, he didn't believe me. Don't lag like that, he dismissed. No, I'm not lying. I wished for him to consider a more affordable house, but he refused to listen and took out a loan for a house he could barely afford with his salary. Initially, I thought we managed our finances reasonably, but over the years, my husband's spending became more reckless. He indulged in luxuries like brand-name clothes and watches, and he went out drinking nightly with his juniors, although he worked overtime to compensate. These spending habits became increasingly hard to ignore. Despite all this, he was determined to build a house, and eventually he made it happen. Wow, this is a really nice house. A house is a clear sign of success, isn't it? He was right. The new house was awesome, spacious, beautiful, and comfortable. My workroom expanded, allowing space for a large desk and more comfortable work conditions, enhancing my productivity. However, the monthly mortgage payments still caused me anxiety. My husband seemed oblivious to the fact that we were paying off a long-term loan every month. The house in his name and his habit of overspending meant his account was always empty. Consequently, I had to transfer my income into his account to cover the mortgage. Frustrated, I decided it was time to address his spending. Don't you think you've been spending too much lately? I want you to consider things like the mortgage for the house, I said. Upon hearing this, my husband frowned and rebutted me. What are you talking about? How do we manage to live a normal life even after purchasing the house? If that's the case, then there's no issue. You're overly concerned with minor details. Or is it that you're just bad at managing money, and that's why you think we don't have enough? That's not my problem. Wait a minute, I interjected. I'm constantly figuring out how to save money for our daily living expenses with the money you provide. And I supplement it with my earnings for the mortgage and other bills. So please, don't speak to me in that manner. What's gotten into you, really? Besides, the amount you contribute isn't all that much, so don't act as if you're doing something grand. The one who earns the most is the most important, which makes me the most important. Don't bother sharing your opinions, my husband declared, aiming to silence me. I was taken aback by my husband's change in attitude. He used to be kind and considerate when we first got married. However, since then, our relationship has become strained. We barely talk, and sometimes we don't even greet each other. My husband had started working overtime more than before and often returned home late at night. I pondered whether it was feasible to continue our married life like this, living under the same roof without real communication. Perhaps it might be better to consider a divorce, though I wished for reconciliation. After much thought, I decided to take the initiative to reach out to him. However, my resolve was immediately crushed when, on a weekday trip to town to buy a birthday present for a friend, I spotted him. He wasn't at work as expected, but was in town, dressed casually and walking with a young woman I didn't recognize. I couldn't believe it, but instantly suspected an affair. To uncover the truth, I hired a private investigator. 3 weeks later, I received the investigation results and visited the detective agency. My husband was indeed having an affair with a work colleague, and their relationship had been ongoing for about 2 years. I realized why my husband had suddenly begun spending extravagantly and coming home late under the guise of overtime 2 years ago. It was all because of his affair. Anger surged within me, especially after enduring his verbal abuses. He was the one having an affair, yet I felt pathetic for trying to protect his self-esteem and our marriage. I decided to cast aside all my doubts and act immediately. When I rushed back home, my husband was lounging on the sofa, engrossed in a sports program. I stood between the TV and him, spreading out the evidence of his affair right in front of him. "Explain this," I demanded as I presented him with the photo evidence. He seemed surprised for a moment, but quickly changed his attitude. "Oh, that's Sandra. She's my new wife." "New wife? What are you talking about?" "Well, now that you know, there's no point in hiding it. Unfortunately, you're no longer needed." "What are you saying?" "Frankly, I no longer have any use for you in my life. But Sandra doesn't want to do household chores, so you can stay and do the housework for her." "What? I would never do something like that." "Are you crazy? I would never do something like that." When I said that, my husband's face turned red with anger. "I'm the breadwinner in this household, so my orders are absolute. If you can't listen to me, then it's divorce." Despite having an affair, my husband was still trying to control me. "Why do I have to listen to him?" "Fine, let's get a divorce." "Huh? First of all, you had an affair, so we can't continue our marriage like this. Let's just get a divorce already." My husband was taken aback, but soon agreed with me. "Oh, all right. Don't come crying to me later. But you have to help me with changing the names on the utility bills and the car loans we just booked." Soon, I changed all the loans into my husband's name and divorced him. He probably thought it was over, but for me, it was just the beginning. You should realize how much I supported your life. The day after the divorce was finalized, I was already relaxing in my new apartment. Then I received a bunch of calls from my ex-husband. Since he had not yet paid me any compensation, I had not blocked his number. When I answered, he sounded flustered and said he needed to talk. I reluctantly agreed to meet him at a cafe, but he brought his mistress with him. "Well, you two look great together. What's going on? Why didn't you tell me every month a large amount of money is being deducted for loans? And why are the food expenses, car loans, utilities, and everything else so high? What are you trying to do by pushing all of that onto me, huh? I divorced you and left that house, so that's only natural. I don't have any other intentions. Shut up, this is fraud. I'll sue you." My ex-husband and his mistress glared at me while holding each other's arms. They both said it was my fault, but I couldn't give in to such ridiculous accusations. "It's your fault for not understanding the situation properly. I showed you various documents, didn't I? And since the loan for the house was originally in your name, it's only natural that you should pay for it. Until now, I've been putting the necessary money into your account. How can you, with just a small income, be putting that much money? As an ex-husband with poorer comprehension skills." I explained everything to him. I was earning money as a freelance engineer, and currently, my annual income is around $200,000. "What do you say? Is that true?" Upon learning that I was earning much more than him, my ex-husband was surprised. "But whether you know it or not, it doesn't matter anymore. More importantly, since I haven't properly claimed compensation yet, I will do so through a lawyer. Are you trying to swindle money from us? I'm just using my rightful claim. I will also make claims against your mistress. And that's exactly what I did. I received compensation from both of them for the emotional distress they caused me. By the way, the woman my ex-husband had an affair with was devastated to learn that he wasn't using his own money to pay for the loan. The next day, she disappeared from his life. Their affair was just like any other, and it ended when the money ran out. My ex-husband now lives a lonely life, struggling to pay off his loan and make ends meet while commuting between work and home. He deserves the punishment he got, but apparently he couldn't accept it and spread the news of his affair around the office. His mistress claimed that he was abusing her, and they ended up in a messy quarrel. However, since they both lost their credibility, no one believed either of them. It seems that my ex-husband's financial troubles only worsened, and he eventually got demoted and received a pay cut due to his inability to focus on his work because of his mounting debts. It's all his own fault, and frankly, he deserves it. On the other hand, I was nervous when I first moved into my new high-rise apartment, but now I'm able to relax and enjoy my life here. I may not be interested in marriage or romance for a while, but that doesn't mean I want to be alone forever. If I meet someone in the future, I hope we can build a mutually supportive relationship based on what I've learned from this experience. For now, I'll focus on working hard and making the most of my time for myself.